This expels my last doubts about Brooke. I know someone is rigging the game, maybe to her favor, but she's not a part of it. She's as much a pawn in this as I.
"Be that as it may, she still needs to come in for questioning," Ragathon says, his face turning red.
Brooke studies him for a moment.
"And challenge her honor? Bold move, considering."
My eyes flick back and forth between them. I don't entirely understand what's going on, but I know it's something significant.
"Does the princess have something more to add to this discussion?"
Ragathon asks of Brooke. She smiles, then faces Jax. "Care to spar? Graver to graver?" There's a flash of confusion on his face, but it's quickly replaced with a knowing grin. It takes me a moment to figure it out as they get into position. Brooke is casual with her approach, explaining some of her powers for the crowd gathering to watch. Low-level gravers can give objects gravity. She focuses on a rock, and it pulls Jax's sword toward it. He grins and yanks his blade back, away from the gravitational pull. Brooke grins. Level 4 gravers, like Jax, can do that and much more. For example, they can move their own bodies, decreasing and manipulating their gravity so that in essence, they fly. She and Jax throw themselves into the air, and their swords clash as they dance on wind. It's incredible to watch, and I realize as eyes widen with respect at their power, that she's doing this for me. She has political weight as an adopted member of the royal family. Now she's showing Ragathon she has real power as well. Because in our world, a challenge to one's reputation can be met in combat. And I can designate someone to represent me. I could challenge Ragathon and have Brooke fight in my place. That's what she's showing him. That he'd better be beyond doubt at my guilt if he is going to tarnish my reputation. Or else. Then there are level 5 gravers, she says, looking at Ragathon squarely in the eye. They are very rare, and very powerful, and they can control the gravitational pull of objects around them. Stones and dirt and rock begin to float around her. They launch toward Jax, slamming into his stomach and pushing him back to the ground. Brooke dashes across the training ground. Before I can blink, she holds a knife to Jax's throat. But he has a blade to her throat as well. They both grin, putting away their blades, as those around us clap and cheer at the display. She helps Jax up and dusts herself off, then faces Ragathon. If someone says Scarlet cheated, then they challenge my word. My honor. The word of a royal. She walks up closer to Ragathon, standing only a few centimeters away. Anyone who wishes to do so may face me directly. Ragathon barely breathes as the rage builds in his body like a physical thing. I can see the struggle on his face as he battles with himself. Challenge her and risk everything, or walk away and risk his pride. He sacrifices his pride and walks away. It's clear no one will question me again. The crowd disperses, and as Brooke and Jax approach me, Evie speaks into my ear. I have a message from Zoran. Yes? It's about the angel. Chapter 27. Masks. I freeze. I have to go. I'll see you all later, I say to Brooks and Jax as I run out of the training yard and into an empty hallway. Once alone, I have Evie get Zoran on the line.
I had an idea, he says, of where we may find the angel.
My intake of breath is sharp and almost painful. Where?
Snatcher's Castle.
From the story you told me?
Yes, it's been abandoned for years, but the angel must have a base. Yes, it's unlikely, but the castle is full of Nephilim and angel history. I'm not sure we will find anything, but if you want to investigate...
Of course I do. I must. Where? I'm already digging out my backpack with my Nightfall gear and opening my window.
I'm right outside your window, he says.
I look down and don't see him. Then I look up, and I smile. I slip into my black armor and join him in the sky as we fly further than I ever have. Can we really fly across an entire ocean? I ask as we drift past clouds and over waves. Zoran chuckles.
We do not tire easily, but if we wish to reach the castle before night falls, we must hurry.
I nod, and the both of us accelerate, rushing past the wind. We do not talk more. It is difficult at this speed. Hours later, we arrive at the base of a mountain. There lies an old ruin with broken walls and faded carvings. Near the gateway, a tower is on its side, cracked open by the force from when it fell. This place looks more rubble and dust than castle. We land and pull in our wings and look around the ruins. A great carving of Nephilim fills one of the walls. What is that one about? I ask, pointing at the yellow stone.
The first one shows the great flood.
I pause. What flood?
As you know, Nephilim were created from fallen angels mating with humans. The blood of the angels gave humans power, made them strong. The other angels did not like this, so over time they manipulated the course of history to stop it,
he says as we explore.
There was a great flood that almost wiped the Nephilim out, but still they remained. Then there were the Inquisitions, but they often killed more innocent humans than actual Nephilim. What remained of our kind went into hiding for many years. But then, when they were ready, they set the world on fire.
I place a hand on a carving of a male angel and a human woman conjoined in a passionate embrace. The cataclysm. He nods.
After, the world was in chaos and Nephilim ruled the skies. Then a woman came along, Juliana. She rebuilt the orders and turned the tide in favor of the humans. There were wars upon wars, and after there was a kind of peace. The kind of peace built upon the subjugation of the Zenith and Nephilim. They were stripped of their rights and made less than man.
He pauses, looking past the great hall where we stand and into some distant past.
Nyx broke that so-called truce.
He had an apprentice who helped, did he not? Erebus? Zoran gives a half-smile.
Yes, you have learned well. Nyx was tactical and manipulative, but Erebus was fire. He dealt the destruction that was needed, but it was too much. In the end, the two did not agree, and that led to their kind's downfall.
I look at him carefully, studying this man of secrets. He knows so much history. He knows of the seals and of the time before the cataclysm. He is ancient, and he is powerful. So powerful, I wonder how he was ever captured. Who are you, really?
I told you when we first met. I am Count of Nightfall, left hand to the Twilight Queen before she was betrayed. Then I served new masters, and the things we did, the things I had to do, I just hope we were right.
You served Nyx and Erebus? Zoran looks into the carvings, his eyes lost in some distant memory.
Yes, in a way.
And you agreed with their methods? The assassinations, the executions. He sits down on the remains of an ancient pillar, sighing.
They did what they thought was right. Is that not what you and I do now?
I nod sadly. Yes, but we will not allow innocents to suffer.
I don't think Nyx ever intended it to be so. But war is suffering.
We are silent for a while. And then I ask something I've wondered for weeks. Zoran, why didn't you take leadership of the Shadows? Why not try to lead the Dark Templars now? You are older, stronger, more experienced. Why me? It is a long time before he responds.
I had my time to lead, he says, and I made a grave mistake. One I know I will make again. So I cannot lead. I cannot.
What was the mistake? He walks away, deeper into the castle, and his voice drifts on the wind.
Caring. I care too much.
We spend the evening scouring the castle for clues, but aside from interesting tidbits of history, we find nothing to help me on my search. I know I shouldn't be surprised. Zoran warned me there was little chance we'd find the angel. But I am. And, as Zoran builds a fire, I throw rocks against the carvings. The flight home is too far to make without rest, so we use our capes as beds and sleep in the dirt. I'm trying to get comfortable, my eyes half closed, my mind half lost in dreams, when I see something scurrying in the dark. A face forms from the shadows, the eyes covered in cloth. It wears a gray sack over its shoulders, but when I move to get a closer look, it disappears into the darkness. It was a dream, I tell myself. Just a dream. The hardest part about learning to dance is learning to dance like a patrician. My parents never taught me, because I wasn't a pat. It would have been scandalous to teach a mere plebe these dances. But now I have very little time to learn. This last trial will decide my fate, and I'm tied with Brooke. Jax is patient with me, guiding me through different dances, styles, and arrangements. We have the ballroom to ourselves as he spins me and dips me and corrects my footing. "You're doing great," he says, leading me off the floor and getting us both a life force. We sit on the floor, backs against the marble wall, sipping our drinks as we rest. "I just hope it's enough," I say. He nudges my shoulder.
"It's more than enough. Trust me."
Trust. Such a tricky word. It reminds me of a question I had. "Jax, do you know the Seeker?"
"Kira? Sure. Why?"
"She just seems close to Ragathon. She seems like she trusts him. I find that unfathomable."
"Kira has no real family or family name, but she trained hard after being chosen as an initiate. She scored at the top of her classes," he says. "But none of the orders wanted to take her. She had no great name, no royal blood. The Chancellor, your grandfather, argued for her, but he did not have enough support. Until Ragathon took up her cause. He insisted the Inquisition take her. He was the only one who chose her to be a knight."
I have so many other questions. How did she end up in initiate training to begin with? Why did Ragathon fight for her? Where does she come from? But Jax gets a call on his e-glass and excuses himself, leaving me with all my questions unanswered. It has been weeks since the trial of wit, but I have had a few opportunities to train with Jax. Now, the Carnival of Masks approaches, where people will celebrate the end of summer quarter training and the near completion of the initiate trials. The Trial of Grace will follow soon after, before the fall quarter begins. Jax has locked himself away in the woodshop, working hard on his secret project. Around Vianney, vendors are preparing for the onslaught of tourists, and everyone everywhere is buying masks made for the occasion. Demons, angels, the glorious and the ungodly, all manners of beings. It's a chance for people to forget themselves and become something other. Oh, the irony of that for me. I wonder if there will be any Nightfall masks made. The thought makes me chuckle darkly. I, of course, will not be wearing my Nightfall mask the night of the carnival, but I will be dressing as one would expect of a Pat. My serf has made sure I have everything I need to participate, but my thoughts are too distracted by the final trial to be too excited about the big day. When the day of the carnival finally arrives, bringing with it a late summer breeze, the excited energy of the town seeps into me, giving me a slight distraction from my worry over the final trial. Jax and Brooke come to my room just as Agatha is finishing up my hair. I'm wearing an elaborate costume of blue and black, with a cape and a matching mask decked in diamonds and sapphires. My hair has been braided and twisted with ribbon, and then wrapped into a side bun. My eyes have been painted so that they stand out underneath the mask. Jax whistles when he sees me.
"You've outdone yourself, Star."
"You too," I say, admiring both him and Brooke. He holds an arm out.
"Shall we?"
I take it, and the three of us walk through the castle, appreciating the streamers and decorations strewn about in bright colors. Jesters, musicians, and storytellers are sprinkled throughout, entertaining guests who mingle. Booths dot the castle bridge, selling their wares to those coming and going. There are more festivities in town, but we make our way to the ballroom, which is completely transformed from last time. The walls and tables are black, reminding me of the cathedral. Silver webs run across the ceiling, and mist drifts across the floor as haunting music flows from a piano. Small black spiders scurry from web to web, and I know once this is over, someone will blow a special whistle and collect them all. Animals have been engineered for such events. Jax asks me to dance, and I place my hand in his nervously.
"This isn't a test," he says. "Just a dance."
"Everything is a test here," I argue, as he spins me around. When the music slows, so do we, and I enjoy the moment, his arms wrapped around me, our bodies close. Life is simple for just a moment. "I feel like we're back in Sky," I say, "back when Mirden used to teach us, when things made sense." He pulls away as the song ends, his face hardening.
"Those days are lost."
His words tug at my heart as he excuses himself to get us drinks. I'm left alone on the dance floor, when someone comes up behind me and asks to dance. I turn to see a man in black, face covered with a mask. But I know his voice, his movement. "Zoran," I whisper, taking his hand, and he pulls me into a dance. "What are you doing here?"
"This is a night to be whomever we choose. No one knows me here, and I needed to see you."
My heart skips a little at that, but I shove that emotion away. Dancing with him is different than dancing with Jax. Zoran glides around the dance floor like one who has been moving to music for ages. I suppose he has, now that I think of it. How many dances, how many songs, how many cultures has he participated in over the course of his long life, I wonder. "Is everything okay?" I ask.
"Your final trial is coming up," he says. "You must do whatever it takes to win. Brooke might be your friend, but she too will do what is necessary to win. At the trial, they are all your enemies."
I look up at him, his eyes so blue through his black mask. "So you didn't come just to dance and enjoy a night off?" He laughs.
"We have no nights off."
I stop dancing, pulling away. I know all this. I'm ready. I will do what I must. I walk away, but he grabs my hand.
"Scarlet."
I pause, turning back to him. "What? More dire warnings?" His hand squeezes mine.
"I could have called to say what I have said."
"Then why didn't you?"
"Because I wouldn't have gotten a dance."
I freeze, startled by his admission. Before I can respond, he releases my hand and disappears through the crowd. I search for him, but he is gone, and a moment later, I walk off the dance floor, abandoned by both of my dance partners, and find Brooke, who is alone on the balcony with a glass in one hand and a bottle of liquor in the other. She sways a bit as I approach, her eyes glassy. When she speaks, it is with a slight slur. "Scarlet! Come, drink with me. We must have alcohol." She hands me her full glass and drinks straight from the bottle. "Ella would have loved this," she says with a gesture of her hand. "The costumes, the dancing, the festivities." I lean against the railing and sip the drink. It's strong. Yes, she would have. "Do you remember the Festival of Fortuna? Just before—" I nod. "Yes." "That was the best day of her life. She told me. The best day." There are tears in her eyes now, and one escapes, gliding down her cheek. "I wish she was here, but it is foolish to dream. I only wish I could make things right for her." "Brooke, Maybe it's the alcohol, or her pain, but I come so close to telling her the truth, to telling her I am Nightfall, and that I am looking for Apex, that I will bring justice to their tormentor." She looks at me, waiting. "I know it's hard. I'm so sorry. I can't reveal this part of myself, even to her. The risks are too great, to both of us." She nods. "But let us not drown ourselves in sorrow. Let us dance and play." We re-enter the ballroom, and she finds a young man to join her on the floor. I watch them laughing, swirling and moving with the music, and then I leave and walk through the castle courtyard, pushing through the throngs of people until I find an area less populated. I need space, air, quiet. I stand staring at the night sky, the moon full and bright, the stars standing sharply against the darkness. I don't hear the viper until the knife enters my back. I fall to the ground, pain piercing my mind. The viper stands over me. Streaming cloth swirls around in the wind. And then all goes black. Chapter 28. Trial of Grace. The pain in my lower back is dull, throbbing. I groan and open my eyes, shifting in my bed. No, not my bed. I look around. I'm in the infirmary, and Jax is sitting next to me holding my hand. He smiles when our eyes meet, but he looks haggard, the skin around his eyes lined with dark circles. "What happened?" I croak. "I found you stabbed outside the castle. I was so scared, Star." He leans in, tears in his eyes. "I thought you were dead. You were barely breathing." "Thirsty," I say. He hands me water, but I shake my head. "No, life force." He nods and grabs one from a vending machine in the hallway. I drink it down. "I'm okay," I tell him. Already healing from my gen mods. And Nephilim blood. "The wound wasn't fatal," he says. "It looked bad, but the hospitaller said it wouldn't have killed you. Someone meant to take you out of the running." Of course. The rage building in me burns away the last of the pain, and I toss aside the sheet covering me and stand, grabbing for my clothes. I know who did this, and they will pay. I'm seeing red when I storm into Ragathon's office in the West End Tower. He sits at his desk, staring at a computer screen. The walls around him are covered with law books and paintings of Inquisition officers meting out justice. "You had me stabbed," I say without preamble. He frowns, his dark eyes matching mine. "That is a serious accusation, girl. Where is your proof?" "You've tried to have me taken out of the running before. You wanted to investigate me during the trial of wit so you could disqualify me. Someone poisoned me during the trial of strength, and I'm sure you commanded them. When all your attempts failed,
You had me stabbed.
By the Viper. Probably an agent of his. I know this isn't proof I can use in a trial, but Pats care little about proof. They care about honor, and mine has been damaged. I can challenge Ragathon to a duel right now. An initiate prospect against a grandmaster. His much higher position means he should refuse, but his dislike for me may just push him to accept. Many will think I have no chance, but they don't know I'm Nephilim, and that will give me an edge. He must see my fury, maybe even think I'm dangerous, because he relaxes into his chair and attempts a soft smile. It looks awkward on his face, like a hyena trying to look cute.
Scarlet, why would I even want you out of the running? You're a patrician, and you have skills. Like others, you deserve your chance to become an initiate. You didn't like me from the start, I say. I don't know why. Maybe you didn't like my parents. Maybe you don't like Jax. I think back to when I first met him in our meetings since. And you know I don't approve of your methods. I would have Zeniths treated fairly. If I became a knight, I would oppose you. He raises an eyebrow, bewilderment on his face. You think I fear you? He chuckles. You think I fear you? It's not a question this time. Girl, I have far greater concerns than you and your beliefs. Now, if you don't mind, I have work to do. He looks back to his computer, dismissing me with a gesture. I don't leave. How could you be so harsh? You're an inquisitor. It's your job to protect the innocent. If you're not the one trying to hurt me, then prove it to me. Find the criminal. Ragathon faces me once more, serious. For the first time in our conversation, he stands, looming over me. You want me to find your assailant? I know you grew up as a plebe girl, but you're a patrician now. You have power. Take this issue to your grandfather, or the Inquisition Domus, or your friend, Jax, or the Princess of York, or even the Teutonic Guards. Do not bring it to me, girl. He leans forward, sneering. I serve those who have no power. The people who live on rations and seek medical treatment from drug dealers on the streets. The people killed by corrupt officers and out-of-control zeniths. The decisions I make change their very lives. You think I have time for one pat, when there's a world of plebes who need my help? Foolish girl. He sits back down, shaking his head. I pause, processing his words, my anger dying down. If you care about the people, why plan a trap in the middle of Times Square? Why sacrifice so many innocents? The rebels. He sighs, looking tired. And for the first time, I don't see a cruel man, but a man who has dedicated his life to his work and paid the price. I underestimated them. It's as if they had a new leader, or someone helping them. They outmaneuvered me at every turn. Had my plan worked, the casualties would have been minor, but I failed. And the many deaths, they are my fault. His words are heavy with sorrow. I almost want to reach out and comfort him, but I remember he is Ragathon, and I stand my ground. Why have such a dangerous plan? I ask. I would sacrifice a few to save many, he says softly. He looks up, his eyes swollen. One day, I was walking my young daughter to school, and as we reached the playground, the building exploded before us. A few more seconds and she would have been killed. Zeniths, inspired by the shadows, had planted the bomb. They wished to kill the next generation of patricians. They killed hundreds,
all children. Fighting inspires more fighting. The shadows must be stopped. That day, I planned to end them once and for all. For my daughter. For the children who will never grow old.
But the shadows remain. Because of me. How will I be better? How will I stop others from killing in my name? You hate Zeniths, I say calmly, finally understanding his motivations. He sips from a cup on his table.
They present a problem, and I am tasked with finding the solution.
And he would use whatever means necessary. I see that now. He would kill innocents. He would execute Zeniths to inspire. He would... I step back as things click into place. He would kidnap Zenith children. He would hurt them. To avenge the patrician children who died. And his goals would be furthered. There would be fewer Zeniths on the streets. They would be seen as less than human. And one day, maybe, like the Nephilim, they will be exterminated. Your apex, I whisper. That's why I had such a visceral reaction to him when we first met. Because I'd met him before as a child. But what part does the Viper play? I'm sure the Viper is a woman. He must have someone working for him. Someone close. The Seeker. His right hand. Your apex, I say again. Louder, as the puzzle I've worked on since childhood falls into place before me. We are silent for a moment. Anger builds within me. Ragathon laughs, his voice carrying through the small office.
You know nothing, Miss Knight.
Evie beeps on my e-glass. Scarlet, the trial of grace is beginning. I want to stay. I want to fight. For Brooke. For Ella. Instead, I turn and leave. The trial is now, and Ragathon can be dealt with later. I know where to find him. And when I do, one of us will die. Agatha dresses me in a beautiful gown of feathers and silk, silver and pale blue to match my eyes. She mutters something, likely about how unprepared I am, but I'm not listening. My mind is occupied. Ragathon is Apex, and Kira is the Viper. They tried to kill me, or at the very least destroy my chances of succeeding here. And now I have to spend an evening in polite company, pretending this place isn't rotting from within. My stomach turns with disgust. As Agatha finishes straightening my hair, Jax enters the room. He is dressed in white to match me, and light blue makeup spirals in designs around his eyes. His belt and buttons sparkle with gold. He looks more patrician than ever before. More beautiful than ever before. He holds up his arm, grinning.
May I have the honor of escorting you to the ball, my lady?
I take his arm, my hands covered in white gloves that almost reach my shoulders. That would be splendid, pure man. He escorts me to a line of people before the ballroom door, where everyone waits to be announced.
Don't worry,
he says. I'm not worried.
You're squeezing my arm like you want to tear it off. I think you're... Wait, never mind. You're right. You're not worried. You're just doing hand exercises.
I grin. You've been through this before, when you were in the initiate trials. Were you nervous? He wipes his forehead.
I was terrified. But I'm not Scarlet the Clever. I wasn't drawing battle plans when I was 10.
I sigh, shaking my head. But I feel better than before. He's right. I've wanted this my entire life. And I'm prepared. We're next in line, and as we enter through the great red doors, we are announced.
Lady Scarlet of the House of Night, Initiate Prospect, daughter of Lord Marcus of the House of Night, and Lady Violet of the House of Forrester, granddaughter to the esteemed Templar Grand Master, Chancellor Forrester. Sir Jackston of the House of Lux, Knight of the Teutonic Order, Knight of the Fourth.
I whisper to Jax, "Why do they mention my parents but not yours?"
"Mine aren't important enough," he says, not looking at me as we descend the red steps into the ballroom. I expected this to be like the first party. It is not. Everything is grander. The floor is glass, and beneath our feet swim giant fish modified to change colors, their scales shimmering from gold to purple to red. Below them giant crystals glow a pale blue in the water. In places, the glass floor parts, and there swans swim amongst flowers of white and gold. A large rock juts from the pool of water, and on it, a woman dressed in silver and a man dressed in black dance, spinning and twirling through the air. At times it seems as if they will fall off, but always one of them catches the other in a passionate embrace. The ceiling is opened, revealing a sky of stars. Men and women dressed in very little strut around the hall, carrying platters of fairy drinks and red cakes. The patricians, who mingle and dance, are dressed in the finest Eden fashionables I have ever seen. Green vines twist and dance around a woman as she dances with her partner. Gold eagles adorn his collar, swaying to the slow orchestral music. I vaguely recognize some of the people around me. Important people. I noticed Tavora, the knight of the second who received the laurel from the archbishop, talking to Brooke and others in the corner. They are both of York. They are family. Brooke wears a black dress decorated with silver stars, and Tavora a black uniform accented with white and gold. Falcon dances with someone I have never met, his red cape billowing behind him. Kira, the seeker, the viper, whispers my mind, sits at a table with others, dressed in a crimson gown and dipping strawberries into a chocolate fountain. She will pay for her part in this. "Shall we dance?" asks Jax. I nod, knowing this is part of the trial, and we begin. My heart beats twice the beat of the music, but I keep my pace, executing all the moves perfectly, following his lead as he spins me around. At times, I glance at Brooke and Falcon, both dancing, and both looking far calmer than I feel. Their steps are not merely correct. They are one with the music. They are grace one moment, fire the next. They are the honorable ruler and the fierce warrior. They are everything a knight should be. And I am not. I have not lived as a patrician for years like Brooke. I didn't have servants training me since I was a child like Falcon. I have potential, but I am not ready. I was a fool to think I was. I think back to Falcon's offer to sabotage Brooke, to Zoran's warning that I must win at all costs. But I will not win by cheating. I will not win by playing these games with the same corruption I came here to stop. So I will do what I can. And maybe, just maybe, it will be enough. The song ends, and our dance stops. People clap. Jax moves me around the room to make small talk with patricians of different noble houses. I bow at the appropriate times, and in the appropriate ways, showing the right amount of deference to each pure man as needed. I smile and sip at champagne and utter the words I know they want to hear from me. It's all exhausting. The splendor is lost in a sea of faces, everyone trying to outdo each other in opulence. The evening feels like it will never end, but time does pass, albeit slowly. I see my grandfather across the room. He is in a place of honor, at the head of a table, watching and talking to someone at his right. He nods ahead at me, his eyes encouraging. He will support me, at least. Jax and I begin dancing again, and it is when I finally begin to slightly enjoy the night that Ragathon approaches. I want to groan,
but I hold my smile and bow. He has a smug expression on his face as his eyes take in my appearance.
I see even plebes can get into these events now.
His insult is a blow struck to my honor, before all to see, but I will not let him win. He's trying to goad me. Instead, I smile at him. A pleasure to see you, as always, Grandmaster. I turn away, swallowing the words I really want to say, and he places a hand on my shoulder.
Dance with me, Miss Knight.
Thank you, but I'm about to say no, but Jax nudges me and whispers,
He's a Grandmaster. You must accept.
I know this, had learned it from Agatha, but in my fury I had forgotten. I turn around, my smile glued onto my face with so much force it hurts. Of course. I take his vile hand, grateful for my gloves, and walk with him to the dance floor. We begin dancing to a slow song, and I keep smiling despite the rage burning within me.
Not terrible, says Ragathon. Slightly plebeian in your timing, focusing only on the downbeat, but not terrible.
Thank you, Grandmaster, I say, pretending his slight is a compliment. He frowns, speeding up the dance.
Your dress is beautiful.
Thank you,
But you look like no warrior. No one wants a flimsy fairy in the castle.
I grit my teeth.
Of course not, Grandmaster.
A moment passes, and the song turns louder. Ragathon leans in, whispering in my ear.
You will tell no one your theory. It will do you no good.
The world will know you are Apex, I whisper back, and you will pay for your crimes.
Careful, girl. Apex is not to be trifled with. Even talk of the man may end in your death.
So finally, he threatens me. Don't worry, I say. I've known Apex for a long time. His eyes widen, bewildered. The song ends, our dance over, and I turn away, grinning.
You're just like your mother, says Ragathon loudly. Rash, impatient. I knew she would die young, and you will face the same fate.
At the mention of my mother, I break. The anger within me explodes. Memories flash through my mind. Brooke tied to a chair and bleeding. Ella falling asleep from drugs, her face so full of innocence. Apex, standing over them. The angel. My parents, dead beside me. I turn to Ragathon. I don't see an inquisitor. I see a killer. And I punch him in the jaw. He flies backwards, landing on his back. Everyone freezes. The music goes silent. My grandfather stands, but says nothing.
How dare you! I yell at Ragathon, crumpled before me. How dare you insult me!
I look around the ballroom, at Brooke and Falcon, at the other grandmasters.
This is no pure man, I say loudly. He is Apex, the one who steals zeniths, the one who sells them.
Silence. I don't know what I expected. Outrage, maybe. Shock. But all I see is confusion. Then, apathy. They do not care. Not about this. Not about children bleeding and dying. Not about Ella. They only care about their drink and food and parties and expensive lives. The music starts again. Someone grabs my arms. Guards. 2 of them. Ragathon yells something, but I do not hear. I am numb. I'm dragged out of the ballroom screaming, through halls of white and then halls of black. I am thrown to the ground, my face slamming against stone. A steel door closes behind me. I am alone, in a cell. And I realize why no one looked shocked. They already know. and they just don't care.
Chapter 29. Final Trial. The council stands behind their stone pillars, shrouded in shadows and draped in the robes of their orders. My grandfather is in the center, his face unreadable. I am not covered in blood as I was the first time I stood here, but I still feel as naked, as powerless. And this time there is more at stake. I do not know what my punishment will be. I can accept flogging. I can accept public ridicule. But what if I'm imprisoned? What will become of the Dark Templars then? Will I try to escape? Will I make myself a fugitive as both Nightfall and Scarlet? The questions are hard, and I do not have the answers.
"You have assaulted a Grandmaster,"
says the Chancellor, his voice devoid of emotion.
"You were witnessed by many at the ballroom, including this council. Do you deny this?"
"No," I say, my head dropped.
"How does this council rule?"
They each vote yea, even my grandfather. I am guilty. My shoulders slump. I shiver despite the heat pulsing through me.
"And yet, before we pass a verdict, we must call our witness,"
my grandfather says in a calm voice. No one acts surprised, except me. What witness? I've already admitted the crime. From the shadows a familiar face steps forward. Falcon.
"Master Falcon, will you give us an account of Miss Knight's actions tonight?"
my grandfather asks. Falcon nods, not looking at me, but focused on the council.
"Of course, esteemed Chancellor. Miss Knight demonstrated chivalry and honor on all accounts." "Tell us, Master Falcon, your review of Miss Knight during the trials." "Certainly, Chancellor. First, during the trial of strength, when she could have eliminated the Princess Brooke of York, Scarlet saved me instead. Later, when I offered her a way to influence the competition, she refused."
The council members, even Ragathon, nod in approval.
"In the trial of wit,"
continues Falcon,
"Miss Knight was courteous to her fellow initiate prospects and counseled teamwork. She knew the answer to the question almost immediately, but kept the information hidden, choosing to first study her opponents. A clever strategy, indeed."
Grandmaster Marion smiles, and the Chancellor chuckles. I don't understand what's happening. What does this have to do with my assault on Ragathon?
"And in the trial of grace, when Scarlet's honor was insulted by Grandmaster Ragathon, she stood up for herself. She did not hold her tongue like a lesser patrician." "And what of her outburst at the end of the ball?"
asks the Chancellor.
"She spoke what she believed to be true for all to hear. The physical altercation was unadvised, but it showed passion and courage. No more could be asked of an initiate prospect."
My grandfather nods sagely.
"What, then, is your recommendation?" "I believe she should proceed to the final trial, and, if she succeeds, that she be chosen as the Four Orders' newest initiate."
His recommendation? The final trial? My mind spins with theories, trying to make sense of this. I study Falcon, who stands tall and formidable. He looks older, wiser. The council listens to his opinion. And then I realize he was never an initiate prospect. He was something else, a plant, someone to test the other two initiate prospects.
"What say you, council members?"
asks my grandfather.
"Do you agree with Master Falcon's recommendations? Shall we forgive her outburst and allow her to proceed to the final trial?"
The second Templar,
who wears a white and red robe, squints at me with small, beady eyes.
"Yea," he says.
"She is too rash,"
says Ragathon, shaking his head at his fellow counselors.
"Too easily angered. Nay."
Grandmaster Gabriella, the youngest of them, pauses. "Nay, I would rather see Brooke advance. She has shown more temperance."
1 for me, 2 against. Marion, whose face I can rarely read, beams.
"Yea."
I beam back. The votes are tied, and only the Chancellor is left.
"Yea,"
he says, grinning. I'm still in the running, and I will not be punished, but there is yet another trial of unknown skills, one I have not prepared for. The counselors leave the room, as do the guards. I hear footsteps behind me and turn to face Falcon. He gestures to a small table in the corner, lit by a lamp. The rest of the room is now covered in shadow, and I sit facing him. I have so many questions, but I'm too stunned to ask any of them. Besides, asking questions might ruin everything. I don't know what we're doing. I have no idea of the rules. He smiles at me.
"You may speak. We are alone."
I release my breath. Is any of it true? What you told me about your family? Your life?
"Yes, all but the part about needing to win. My family did always have high expectations for me. My parents had planned my career before I was born. Shortly after my 7th birthday, they died in the wars. The Ankh reminds me of them, and I have worked hard to honor their memory. It is why I became an Inquisitor, a Knight of the 6th. And it is why, later, I became the final judge of initiates."
What is the 4th trial? I'd never heard of it in the news. Never heard that one of the initiates was always a plant. He holds out a hand.
"It is this. It is you and I speaking truthfully."
Okay.
"I will ask you a series of questions, and, if I deem your answers satisfactory, you will be chosen."
"And if you don't?"
"I think you know the answer to that one,"
he says. I take a deep breath and close my eyes, then open them. "Okay, ask."
"Why do you wish to be a knight?"
"Because I wish to honor my family," I say quickly.
"No!"
He slams his palm against the table.
"Do not lie, Scarlet, for I will know. That is your last warning. Now, why do you wish to be a knight?"
My heart is beating so hard I can barely hear myself think. What if he asks about what I do outside of the castle? About Nightfall? If he suspects, I won't be imprisoned. I'll be executed. I swallow hard and think through my answer. The truth is risky. The truth casts the orders in a shadowy light. But a falsehood will ruin me. So I tell him the truth. Because the orders are corrupt, I say firmly, holding his gaze with my own. And I wish to change them from within. He studies me for a long moment. Sweat beads on my temple and under my arms. Finally, he nods, smiling.
"Very good. Now, why should I pick you over Princess Brooke?"
My breathing is shallow, as if oxygen is having a hard time finding its way down my esophagus and into my lungs. Why should they pick me over Brooke? She's a level 5 graver, a princess, and my friend. I dig deep and tell him what's in my heart. Brooke would be a great knight. She would rule with honor and accrue power for her family. She would rise to a knight of the 1st. She would be a great knight. But she would not be me. I breathe deeply and exhale. She will not be what the orders need.
"And what is that, Scarlet?"
Change.
His face is stone, but his eyes, they flicker. My words have reached him. You have many knights who know how to gain power and honor, how to manipulate the system for their benefit and that of the order. You do not need more. You need someone who can question the way things are, someone who can tear the orders down, if need be, and rebuild them anew. My words could be considered treasonous in the wrong ears. I can only hope that he understands. I wait in his silence, shielding my thoughts from my own self-doubt.
I have one final question.
He leans forward, eyes intent on mine.
Remember, we are alone here. No one is listening. But I will know if you lie. Tell me, Scarlet, what do you do when you leave Castle Viani?
It's as if all the blood drains to my feet. I can't breathe, can't think, can't move, can't answer. To answer him honestly would be to sign my death warrant. To lie would be to lose it all in this last final moment. I could touch him, control his mind, make this end the way I need it to. I reach out my hand, but he pulls away.
I know, he whispers. I know what you are, Scarlet. I know that right now you can kill me. But first, consider that I have told no one of your secret. Consider why.
He pauses to look at me.
It is because I wish to believe in you, Scarlet. And now I ask, not as your superior, not as your judge, but as your friend. What do you do when you leave Castle Viani?
My head is spinning. He knows? What does that mean? That he knows about Nightfall? About the cathedral? About the Dark Templars? He knows. And he wishes to believe in me. I force my mind to calm. I think back to all my dreams. All my reasons for coming here. For leading the Dark Templars. Everything I do for one reason. And so I give him the deepest truth in me to give. I fight to end the suffering. He sighs, then nods. There's a small smile on his lips as he stands and claps. A giant door opens, revealing light from the hall as the counselors re-enter. They take their places above us, and my grandfather asks,
Your verdict?
Falcon turns to them.
Scarlet Knight is the new initiate of Castle Viani.
Chapter 30. Important Things. Falcon escorts me out of the council chambers, and I'm still a bit befuddled. I'm an initiate? Just like that? I was hoping to avoid a whipping for attacking Ragathon. I'd seriously lost all hope of actually making it into the training. Now, there is just one thing left to do. I must stop Apex. As we leave the room, my grandfather grabs my hand and whispers to me,
We must talk.
Can I meet you later? I have something I need to do first.
No, it must be now. It's about Apex.
I follow him to his office, and he locks us in and ushers me to the chairs in front of his fireplace. We sit, but he does not offer tea this time. Instead, he leans forward urgently.
What do you know?
I'm wary for a moment, but I speak what I believe are words that cannot implicate me in wrongdoing of any kind. The patricians will not fight Apex. Many of them work with him. He's a tool for removing pesky zeniths from their precious population, especially those who are lowest common denominator, the unwanted of society. He nods.
I cannot help you with your hunt for him. It's true. None of us here can help in any official capacity. By the orders, Grandmasters do not interfere.
So, You brought me in here to tell me... nothing?
I brought you here to tell you to be careful. Everyone will be against you in this. Everyone.
I sigh and stand. I already knew that. I turn to leave, but he stops me with his voice.
Scarlet! I believe you forgot your bag.
No, I didn't. I turn to look at him, confused.
Are you quite sure? It is not mine, and no one else has been in my office.
There's a pale blue tote bag lying next to his chair. I pick it up. He smiles.
It matches your eyes.
It's a dismissive statement he tosses out as he reaches for his cat to pet her and stare into the ever-blazing fire. I leave his room, examining the contents of the bag as I do. There are diagrams of something. I look more closely. It's a ship. And there are coordinates. This is where I will find Apex. And finally avenge Ella. I'm still staring at the diagrams when Brooke sneaks up on me. I shove them back into the bag as she holds out her hand. I shake it and she smiles, pulling me into a hug. I heard the news. Congratulations. No one deserved it more. We pull away and there are tears in my eyes. You're not mad? She shakes her head. Not in the least. There are many paths open to me, and I can always try again next year. I hold her hands between mine, so relieved. I didn't realize how worried I was at her reaction until this moment when the worry was removed from my shoulders. Sisters to the end. She nods. Sisters to the end. When she leaves, I turn to find Jax. It's time to make Apex pay for what he did to our family. I find him deep in a forge, welding a sword over a fire. When he sees me, he sets the metal down and takes off his protective gear. We step outside into the cool air, the sweat drying on my skin. I hand him a copy of the paperwork my grandfather gave me. I found Apex, I say, without preamble. He freezes. Ragathon? No, I found the coordinates of their ship, where they keep the Zeniths. He looks at the paperwork.
Scarlet, this is not something we can stop. Not right now.
I will pursue this, and I need you.
It's too dangerous,
he says, trying to hand the paperwork back to me. I don't accept the files. Instead, I cross my arms over my chest so I don't shake the boy in front of me. I thought we joined the orders to fight for justice. Or is this all just a game to see how high you can rise in the ranks?
You know that's not who I am or why I'm here.
Then prove it, Jax. Do something worthy with the power you've acquired and been given.
Scarlet, I can't... If I act without orders, I'll compromise my position here. And please, please don't do anything alone. Apex is dangerous.
He stares into my eyes.
I can't lose you.
I shake my head and pull away. I was never yours to lose, Jax. I turn to walk away, but stop for a moment, speaking into the wind. The only ones we can lose are ourselves. We can lose the dream we once had, but we can still remember. Remember, Jackson Lux. Remember who you are.
How reliable is this information?
TR asks, a frown lining his face. I trust it. The papers are strewn about on the war table, and TR has been picking them apart for the better part of an hour. Trix has remained mostly quiet, and I think Zoran is taking some perverse pleasure in watching me butt heads with TR.
I don't know about this, Nightfall. It could be a trap. You could be walking our people to their deaths.
I slam my fist on the table in frustration, then look to Zoran and Trix. Could you two give us a moment? Zoran pauses, as if to say something, but shakes his head and walks out, Trix trailing behind him. She gives me a sympathetic look before closing the door behind her. She may like TR, but she's not blind to his faults. "Why do you mistrust everyone?" I ask him once we're alone. He shrugs.
"They have to prove themselves."
I feel like I'm Falcon and this is the 4th trial. I have no time for lies. "Why don't you trust me?" The smirk finally leaves his face as he stares at the plans and begins to talk.
"There was a soldier, someone I recruited and trained. He betrayed our unit, gave us false information. Most of the shadows were captured, and later, they were used as bait to get to Trix."
He looks up at me.
"Even those closest to us can betray us."
I sink back into my chair with a sigh. I get it, okay? I do. But I don't need you to trust a person, just an idea. The idea that we will vanquish the orders.
"I'm still not sure of this plan,"
he says. I think you could trust this plan. It's the person behind it you don't trust. So that's okay. Don't trust me, but look at the data. Pretend I'm not here now. What would you do, TR? What would you do with this information? He looks over the plans again, studying the schematics. Then he slumps in his chair.
"I would act,"
he says dejectedly.
"I would attack Apex."
"And if you're wrong?" I slip the paper toward him. "If this is a trap?"
"I would still have to try. I would have to try everything to help them."
I jump into the Night Raven and fly toward the coordinates, connected via e-glass to Zoran, TR, and Trix. They lead my troops to a safe house near the docks, from where they will follow me in boats the Dark Templars acquired. Our numbers have grown over the weeks, and I have near 100 men and women under my control. Soon we will reach the coordinates listed on the paperwork my grandfather gave me. Soon we will have Apex by the throat. My palms are sweating. I've never felt so nervous. "Zoran, tell me a story."
"A story?"
he asks. "Yes, a story. You always talk in stories." He chuckles.
"Do I? I suppose it's because that is how my mentor taught me."
"So tell me one now, to calm me."
"You do not need calm. Right now, you need rage. So tell me a story,"
he says.
"Tell me what the Apex did to set you on this course."
And so I tell him the story of my youth. When I'm done, I hear him sigh heavily through the e-glass.
"This is where you are meant to be,"
he says.
"Scarlet, I need to tell you something, but promise me you will think before you act."
"Zoran," I say, my voice full of impatient warnings.
"Promise me."
"I promise."
"There has been a sighting of the angel."
I hear Trix gasp, but I am silent. Still, I clutch my father's ring in my hand, the token of strife, until blood drips from it. "N," Trix says. "We're ready." I squeeze harder, tears pooling in my eyes as I think of that night, of them laying there, lifeless, limp. "N," Trix asks, "what should we do?" I take a deep breath and make my choice, and I let the ring fall, the chain tugging around my neck. "We move forward." I know this is the right choice, because it hurts the most. There are more important things now. Zoran sighs again, and, as I fly through a cloud, he begins humming a happy tune. "Zoran?" I ask, as I steer the Night Raven.
"Yes?"
"There is no sighting of the angel, is there?" He keeps humming.
"Does it matter? I thought there were more important things now."
Chapter 31. Apex. The ship floats on the horizon, a massive thing of gray steel, groaning against the wind. It tears through the fog and sea, barely swaying in growing storm. I unlock my cockpit and stand. Below me are the smaller ships of Dark Templars, ready to give their life against the behemoth before us. I speak through my e-glass to all of them. When I first led you, I promised no one would die. Now, I make no such promise, for we face Apex and his monsters, and we will fight until our enemy has fallen. We are more than soldiers. We are symbols of what is just. And tonight, we prove so to the world. Go forth, Dark Templars. Go forth, and make our enemies once again fear the night. My warriors roar. And so it begins. I unleash my wings and dash toward the ship, crashing into a guard patrolling the deck. I grab his throat and enter his mind. Deactivate the security systems. Hack the cameras. He stands, nodding, and disappears below deck. I sneak around a giant ship container, likely used for transporting zeniths, and grab another guard from behind. I tell him to find his quarters and sleep, and he does. I tap my e-glass. Evie, do you have access to the cameras yet? Accessing them now. Images flash across my e-glass. Empty hallways, a cell of prisoners, a crowd of cheering people. We don't have all feeds, says Evie. It appears the guard did not have access to high-security areas. This will do, I say, scanning the different entrances below deck. Loop the camera feeds. Keep me off the radar. Will do. Shuffling through the cameras, I stop at a feed of a small room. Inside, a man beats a half-naked woman with a stick. He laughs as he covers her back in crimson. These are the kind of people who come here, and these are the sick pleasures they pay for. I should have killed Ragathon when I had the chance, but tonight I will do better. Tonight, Apex will fall, and his prisoners will be free. Trix contacts me. We're in position, N. Good. Begin. Below me, where waves crash against hard steel, Trix and TR have secured their boats to the ship. Trix will burn a hole through the surface, and my Dark Templars will enter the bowels of the iron monster. They will find the zeniths, and they will evacuate them. I will find Apex, and kill him. Hey, you! A guard shouts from above me, her gun raised. Before she can pull the trigger, a shadow tears through the rain, slicing across the woman. Zoran. He lands on the deck, and the woman collapses at his feet, her throat slashed open. We nod to each other, and as rain begins to fall, I descend below. 2 guards clad in black armor watch the door. I dash forward, my wings spiraling behind me, and grab them both. I'm a patrician and a client. I'm supposed to be here. They nod and urge me through. I enter the ship, and the harsh sounds of wind and sea are replaced by thundering electronic music. The steel beneath my feet becomes lush auburn carpet, and sweet exotic fragrances fill the air. The people here look like me, covered in thick cloaks and vivid masks. They are pets, chatting and laughing around tables and bars, hiding their true selves as they partake in the darkest and most twisted of pleasures. I am in a great hall, where dancers sway on platforms above, and women lead young, attractive men behind dark curtains. At the center, a crowd cheers and curses and howls. I know what they admire before I even look. A glass cylinder, a man and woman clawing at each other within. The man flings stones at his opponent, while the woman incinerates them as they approach her. Blood streaks the sand at their feet. I stare at them, letting rage fill me. These are people, not meat, and they shall not be used. I turn from the crowd and find the stairs leading deeper into the ship. With a touch, the guard lets me through. Here, the hallway is empty and most of the doors are closed. I pass one that is slightly ajar and notice a girl on the bed, her eyes half open, an IV running into her arm. A man walks around her, noticing me. He winks and closes the door. I descend deeper, and I reach a grand door carved from ancient wood. There are no guards here, and why should there be? The people here praise Apex. He is the source of their luxury. I enter, and step into a room covered in shadow. A giant aquarium glows a midnight blue in the corner. A dark shape slithers through the water, like a kraken from legends of old. A cage lies in darkness to my side. Something rattles within. Lightning strikes, and for a moment the room glows. At the head, near a wooden table, stands a figure with his back to me. His cloak is torn to ribbons, like vipers in the night. I step forward. "It's over, Ragathon." Apex laughs. It is the light laugh of a woman. "He's not Apex," she says. "I am." I know her voice, and in a split second she is behind me. I turn. "How?" Brooke smiles and stabs me in the side. Chapter 32. Two Souls. I collapse to my knees, clutching my side as pain fires through me. This cannot be real. My friend, my sister, cannot be Apex. But when I look up, I do not see the Brooke of old. I see a smile of cruelty and madness. I hear a laugh that delights in pain. Brooke grabs my e-glass and tosses it across the room. She raises her dagger. "The venom will dull your taint, so do not think of escape. And listen, Scarlet." My eyes widen. "You know?" "I've known for a while. One of my agents tracked you upon your return to New York. It is how I knew Jerry needed elimination." You're... I can't bear to say it." She grins. "I am Apex." "How?" My words are little more than a whimper. When I escaped from the pit, I did not leave this ship. I found Apex and threw him into the sands with me. We fought for all to see, and when they saw how I snapped his bones and peeled his nails away, how I tore his eyes and cut his tongue, they knew they had one choice remaining. Follow me, or die. "Ella. What happened to Ella?" And then I hear it once more, the rattling in the cage. I crawl toward the darkness, tears streaming down my face. And there, in the shadows, I see a pale girl in chains, her cheeks sunken in, her body little more than bones. She looks up, and when our eyes meet, there is no reaction. She is hollow. There is nothing left. "How could you?" I roar, spinning on Apex. "She is your sister!" For the first time, Brooke's smile fades, and her lips curl with rage. "I was tired," she spits. "Tired of always being second. When our father would get angry, it was me he would hit. Even if she was the one to offend him, it was always me who paid. Never Ella. Ella was too beautiful, he said. He would not ruin a beautiful thing, he said. When we came here, we had a new home, a new father. But he too valued Ella over me. He threw me in the pits, betting on my life every day while Ella gave massages and promises of love. She was never hit, never scolded. She was too beautiful, Apex said. And he would not ruin a beautiful thing." Her smile returns. "But I am Apex now, and I care not for beauty." "No," I say.
You are Brook from the kingdom of Sky, a plebe Zen who builds castles in the sand. And you are my friend. Please let Ella go." She chuckles, turning away.
"So that is why you're here. For Ella, and not for me."
I crawl toward my e-glass, but pain bites at my side, and I barely move. "I'm here for both of you."
Brooke walks over to the aquarium, her soft face reflecting off the pale blue glass. "Then prove it." She begins pacing, and I stop my crawl. "You fared well in the trials, and you will be a knight before me. But I am of the House of York, and as Apex, I hold the support of many. We can change this world, Scarlet." Brooke turns to me. "You a knight and Nightfall, me a princess and Apex. Together the orders will crumble before us, and one day we will be queens. We will be emperors."
My head spins, growing fuzzier. Her madness makes a kind of sense. Together we could accomplish anything, but in our wake the world would burn. Brooke does not care. The world has been harsh to her, and she will be harsh in return. I close my eyes, weeping for the friend I once had. I see the path that brought her here, the path that twisted a young girl into an insane woman, and I shudder. Too easily could I have taken the same steps. Too easily can I take them still. I look up at Brooke, forcing a smile through the pain. "When I came here, I thought Ragathon was Apex. He is no ally to me, but you, Brooke, you are my sister. And I need you to believe me. I need you to believe me so I can end this." Brooke nods, and a tear runs down her cheek. "We are sisters, aren't we?" "Yes." We match eyes, and I'm reminded of the girl I helped in the sand. Then she chuckles. "I never liked sisters." Two shackles fly from the shadows and clasp around my arms. They drag me through the room, out the door, through the hall. Everything spins as the poison clutches me further. Brooke walks at my side. I try to pull free, but she is too strong a grabber.
"You know, the thing about emperors," she says, "there can only be one."
The shackles release, and I fall. I hit hard, but the ground below is soft. Sand. Blood. I crawl to my knees. I am within a glass cylinder, and someone is at the other side. Zorin. Apex stands on a pedestal above us, her face now covered in a black mask.
"Tonight, we have a special treat. Two Nephilim fight to the death. Nightfall and her apprentice."
The crowd cheers. Zorin chuckles. He unleashes his dark wings and dashes at the glass, sword in hand. He hits the cylinder, and with a cry he falls, twitching in the sand. "It's electrified," he murmurs. The poison is wearing off, and I manage to stand. "I will not fight."
"You will,"
says Brooke, and once again Zorin cries out. Somehow, she can choose to electrocute different parts of the arena.
Apex continues. "The winner may give the loser a quick death. But if you do not fight, then both of you will die slowly. You will both be electrocuted until your insides are cooked, until you feel death from within."
Zorin stands, his hands still trembling. "What happens to the winner?"
"The winner lives to fight another day."
Zorin floats forward and lands before me. His eyes meet mine. "Kill me," he says. "No. You need to be the one to live. You can win this." Does he still not understand?
I barely know what I am doing. It is my mistakes that put us here. How did they capture you?
A guard saw me. He must have reported me to Apex, for I was electrocuted through the floor. She must have a way to shock any room in the ship.
It must be linked to her e-glass, I say. He nods, and then his face convulses in pain, and he collapses again.
Begin already, yells Apex.
I fall to a knee and touch Zoran's shoulder. I can't. He brushes me away and stands, a deep sadness in his eyes.
But I can.
He summons his sword and pulls the blade to his own throat. I charge and knock him to the sand, grabbing the sword with my hands. It tears through my flesh, down to my bones. The Pats above cheer and howl. Zoran and I struggle over his blade, rolling through sand and blood. He is stronger. We both know this. But today my grip is firm. I will not let him die.
The Dark Templars will come for you,
he says, clenching his jaw.
And they will free you. But if you do not fight, we will both die now.
I touch his hand, trying to will him to obey me, but my talent does nothing. Then let us fight. Let us give them a show. And while they watch, the others will find us.
Apex will see we are holding back.
Then don't, I say. Toy with me like this is a game. Beat me like I am nothing. I can take it.
Scarlet.
Zoran, you once told me you could lead no longer. You said it was because you cared too much. You were right. You care too much right now, and you are not thinking. That is why you no longer lead. So I ask you, who leads the Nephilim now?
You.
Who?
Nightfall,
he says, his lips curling into a grin. I smile back and dash away. And I order you to fight me, Count of Nightfall. He nods, and he charges forward, crashing into me. First, he uses his blade, slicing thin cuts into my arms and legs like when we first met. His precision is impeccable, and I cannot stop him. He laughs, and the crowd laughs with him as my blood hits the sand. Next, he uses his fists. He hits me in the chest, and I fly across the pit, slamming into the glass, the shock running through me as I fall. I wipe my mouth, and red stains my hand. Above me, the mass of laughing people blur. There, someone familiar. No, they are all blending together, a mass of madness that will crush me. They feel far away now. I am in a different place, a different time. I am with Mirden, sitting on his wagon. Jax, Brooke, and Ella play orders on the field, laughing and smiling. Sometimes I don't think Brooke likes me, I say. Mirden chuckles, his bushy eyebrows almost dancing with laughter.
She likes you very much, Scarlet. You inspire her. So much so that when you give your time to others, she feels sad. Angry, even.
But we spend a lot of time together, I say, kicking my feet against the carriage.
But your bond is not as strong as the one between you and Jax. She senses it. Everyone does.
We're friends. He smiles.
You are more than friends, Scarlet. You are two spirits, drawn together, your paths intertwined. Remember the carnival?
I nod, remembering the treats and outfits and the cool fall weather.
You dressed as the moon, and Jax as the sun, though you had never discussed it. And later, the two of you began playing before you even realized who you were.
I laugh, remembering the shocked look on Jax's face when he recognized my voice.
Such a bond does not happen often,
says Mirrodin, his smile turning serious.
Such a bond never breaks, and though others may leave you, you will never leave each other.
He looks away, and the memory fades. A foot smashes into my face, and I roll through the sand. The laughter and cheers return, thundering in my ears. There is a man in the crowd who does not cheer. His face is covered in a hood and mask, but I see the blue of his eyes, and I know. Jax has come. The air grows hot, the ground grows hotter, and the sand collapses. I fall, but something soft catches me. Trix and TR. They help me stand. Time I repaid the favor, says Trix, smiling. She burned through the ceiling. She burned into the pit, and Zoran and I fell to a level below. Above, Brooke screams, and the glass shatters. She jumps off her pedestal, diving toward us. And then he is there. He dashes in from the crowd, and he knocks her out of the sky. They slam through a window, flying out of the ship.
"Who is that?"
asks TR. I smile. Sir Jackson Lux, I say. He will never leave me. Trix and TR help me through the ship, down to where Trix burned open a hole to one of our boats. We are not shocked by electricity. Jax must have removed or damaged Brooke's e-glass.
"Almost all zeniths have been evacuated," says TR. "We scoured the ship. I found a girl, and this."
He passes me my e-glass, and I put it on, grateful that Ella is safe. Thank you, I say. Trix helps me toward the burned wall. Below, boats sway in the waves, connected to the ship by ropes. One by one, people hook themselves to the ropes and slide down to safety. We need to go, En. I nod, turning to Zoran beside me. Get the people out. Then I unleash my wings and fly outside, the raging wind and rain slashing my face. I fly upward and land on the deck. Above me, Jax and Brooke dance through the skies. Evie, contact Jax. Done. I tap my e-glass, hiding behind a container. Sir Jackson Lux, this is Nightfall.
Nightfall,
he says, his voice strained.
Go, get the people out. I can hold her off, but I can't beat her.
You can, I say. A container beside me groans as it lifts into the sky. It flies forward, and Jax spins out of the way, avoiding the metal as it crashes into the waves below.
She's stronger than anyone here,
he yells, as Brooke lunges at him with her blade. Her mask and e-glass have fallen off. No, I say. Not everyone. I draw closer to them, sneaking behind crates and containers. You ever play orders, Jackson Lux? He blocks with his sword, then strikes. They twirl through the air, never still.
Yes.
I need you to be a Teutonic. Freeze her in one place.
And you?
I'll be a Templar. Brooke dashes away from Jax, and another container rips through the air. He dodges, but then a crate hits his leg and he tumbles down, catching himself near the ground.
I can't get close enough,
he says. I have a diversion. I tell Evie my commands, and the Night Raven emerges from the fog. 2 missiles fire at Brooke. She redirects one, then the other. She curves them through the sky back at the Night Raven. My aircraft dodges, and the missiles continue their curve, striking the ship below deck. An explosion rips through the air, and the steel ship shakes, throwing me to the ground. Jax crashes into Brooke. He grabs her, and though they toil in the sky, they stand still. She pulls in one direction, he pulls them in the other. I dash into the sky with the last of my strength. I reach out for Brooke, and a container crashes into us. Brooke and I fall. We hit the deck,
laying side by side, the rain streaming down our faces.
"I should have known he would help you,"
she says softly.
"I should have known."
I reach out my hand to be closer, tears burning in my eyes. "I'm sorry," I say. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you." And then ropes fly through the air. They twist around Brooke and bind her upright against a container. She thrashes and yells, but she cannot break free.
"Who's doing this?"
"You," I say. "I touched you in the sky, and I made your abilities turn against you." Her eyes widen in fear.
"What?"
"No one is as strong as you, Brooke. No one else could beat you."
"No. Scarlet! Scarlet, please!"
A blade hits her in the chest. She looks down, her jaw wide open as her black shirt turns darker. She laughs, and for a moment, as the life drains from her eyes, they are the eyes of an innocent. Jax lands between us and tears his blade free from Brooke's body. His white cloak billows in the wind. His mask fell off during the fighting, revealing his blue eyes, swollen by unshed tears.
"Go,"
he says. I stand and reach for him. "Jax!"
"I couldn't save the Zenith from execution, but I could help now. That will have to be enough."
He sheaths his blade and flies into the sky, disappearing among the fog. As the ship sinks into the depths below, I close Brooke's eyes and whisper a prayer for my friend. She never found peace in this life, but I hope she may find peace in the next. Chapter 33. Better Days. I use the Night Raven to return to shore, and when the freed Zeniths are gathered at a safe house, I step out onto a podium before them. Later, I will grieve as Scarlet, but right now, I must inspire as Nightfall. Tonight, Apex has fallen, and soon the whole world will know. Even now, my agents upload videos of the atrocities committed upon the ship, and the video of how it sank. I lock eyes with some of the crowd, noticing Nana. I do not see Ella. "Line up," I say. "I wish to meet each of you." The Zeniths form a line before me, and one by one, they approach. I take everyone's hand, and I give each of them a compliment. And to each of them, I say I am sorry. When I am 2/3 through, I reach the girl with hollow eyes. "Ella," I whisper. She looks up, but says nothing. "You are free now," I say. I... Her lips tremble. "I don't know what to say." "Then say nothing. No one here will make you. No one will ever make you do anything again." She nods, and with a half-smile, she walks away. TR steps forward.
"From now on, you will join the Dark Templars. You will help us bring justice to the world."
I raise my arm, quieting him. "Those of you who wish will join the Dark Templars. For you are free now, and you will do as you wish." The people cheer. Once I have met every Zenith, I depart from a side exit and change into Scarlet. I return to New York and walk the streets, heading back to the castle. The storm has passed. The wind is calm. Down an alley, a boy sprays white paint on the wall. He sprays white over a black A, and then he paints the word Nightfall. That night, I weep for Brooke and Ella, and when I finally sleep, I dream of better days. "Do you want to play together?" I ask. Brooke raises an eyebrow. Really? Jax smiles. Why not? We sit in the sand and begin building a castle. Brooke and Ella exchange a glance, then sit with us. Our hands dip into the cool sand, and we pack it into shapes as our creation comes to life. The next day, I kneel before the council, and my grandfather holds a sword over my head. His voice is strong and loud when he speaks the old words.
Do you swear to protect the weak and defenseless, to fight for the welfare of all, to eschew unfairness, meanness, and deceit, to at all times speak the truth? Do you swear?
I swear, I say. He touches each of my shoulders with the sword, then drapes a black cloak over my shoulder and hands me a silver and obsidian ring with a V on it. I slip it onto my finger.
Then rise, Scarlet Knight, an initiate of Castle Viani.
And so I rise. Falcon stops me just as I leave the council chambers.
I was hoping to catch you before I leave.
You're not staying at Castle V? I'm a bit surprised. I just assumed he'd be taking on some kind of official position now that the initiates are all chosen.
The orders have work for me elsewhere, I'm afraid. But I didn't want to go without saying goodbye first.
He bows to me, and then holds out a hand. I grab it, and we shake, holding on a moment longer than necessary.
It has been my honor to know you, Scarlet Knight. I have no doubt you will prove my faith in you true.
I can't say I've enjoyed all aspects of this, but I understand why you did what you did. And thank you. You have helped me realize the first step in my dreams. He smiles and turns to leave, but pauses.
Do you think our parents live on somewhere? Somewhere they can see us?
I ponder his question, never giving the afterlife much thought before. I don't know. But if they are somewhere, they would... I think of my mother and father, of all they sacrificed so I could grow up happy and learn what I wanted. They would be proud of the people we have become, and the people we will become. They would cherish the time we had together, and be grateful that we carve our own path. They would be the people we need them to be. Falcon grins, his eyes glistening.
I have always followed the plan my parents made for me before my birth. But I think perhaps you are right. I think, deep in their hearts, they only wanted what was best for me. I think their spirits know this too. Maybe it is time for me to find another career. Maybe they would have approved.
I nod, knowing my parents would support the paths I have taken, and the two people, Nightfall and Scarlet, that I have become. Falcon shakes my hand.
Thank you, Scarlet Knight. Be the change you want to see here, and we shall meet again some day.
Another mentor once told me the same. My thoughts flicker to Myrddin, and I smile. Let's hope that's true. I make it to my room without any other interruptions and collapse onto my bed. Agatha appears there. She always knows where I am, it seems. Allow me to help you dress. I stand and let her help me out of my initiate robes, and then I throw on my jeans and a shirt. I keep my Castle V ring on, turning it around on my finger. Agatha, you're my serf, yes? She nods. Of course, Your Grace. And you have to do anything I command? Yes, Your Grace. If she's nervous about what I might ask her to do, she doesn't show it. I stand to face her. Agatha, I command you to be free. Your Grace? Her mouth frowns in confusion. You're free. You can do what you like, go where you like, work where you like, I free you. She backs away, her lip trembling. This isn't the reaction I expected, and I'm confused. Doesn't she want freedom? Your Grace, may I speak freely? Yes, Agatha. You're free. That means you can talk. Your Grace, this is the only life I know, and I am too old to start a new beginning. I ask that you keep me on. Let me serve you. She pauses, then looks into my eyes, like an equal. I admire what you are trying to do here, and I want to help in the small ways I can. I tilt my head. I don't know what to say. Say yes, she says. Under one condition, I say. What's that? You will be paid a fair wage, and you will be free. You will work for me, not be owned by me. You will have autonomy to quit and leave any time you'd like. Those are my terms. I can't be Nightfall and have a slave waiting on me. I can't be Scarlet like that either. She reaches for my hand and lifts my ring to her lips, kissing it. I accept and am at your service, Your Grace. Jax is waiting for me in the shadows when I leave. We haven't talked since he helped defeat Apex. Due to leaked camera footage, everyone knows of his involvement at this point, and when he approaches, I hug him. I know what you did, and I'm proud of you. He smiles, but there is pain in his eyes. I know the cause, but cannot speak of it. Because that part, the part about Ella and Brooke, is not common knowledge yet. Soon the world will also know about Brooke, but not yet. Not today. How does it feel? He looks down at the Vianney ring on my hand. I think for a moment before answering. I don't know yet, to be honest. I'm still in a bit of shock at how this all played out. He nods. I'm glad you're here. I stop walking and turn to face him. Are you? He reaches for my hand, holding it, warming it. It never felt right to be here without you. My skin tingles and my stomach flips a bit, but I say nothing, too numbed by the overwhelming emotion of the last few days. He starts walking again, my hand still in his until I'm forced to move or let go of his hand. I move. I want to show you something. You up for a flight? My first thought is of my wings, but of course he doesn't mean them. We stop in front of my father's plane. Its pre-flight checklist is complete, and she's ready to fly. And Jackson Lux, my best friend since childhood, flies me home. Chapter 34. Home. When we land in my backyard, my throat thickens until it's hard to breathe. We don't go into my house, but instead we walk to Brooke and Ella's. Jax told me everything, and I listened as though it was new knowledge. My surprise may have been fake, but my grief at talking about the path our friend went down, that was all too real. We spent hours talking, telling stories from childhood, trying to focus on the Brooke we remembered, not the one she became in the end. Ella is sitting outside in the late summer sun when we arrive. She is still too thin, too pale, but she's coming back to life, even if just a little. Her mouth twitches until it almost smiles when she sees me. I wonder if she overheard my talk with Brooke. I wonder if she knows I am Nightfall. I walk up and hug her, and her frail body grips mine, shaking with tears and sorrow and joy and all the things too hard to speak. Jax leaves to give us a moment alone. She and I grip arms and walk to her porch swing. As we sway in the chair, still holding hands, Ella looks to me, her wide brown eyes too sunken, too serious. Jax told you? She's talking about Brooke, about what Ella's sister did to her. To so many. I nod. I'm not going to tell my mother, she says softly. I'm not going to break her again. I will tell her Brooke died a prisoner, because in truth that is what happened. They killed her. The woman who kept me prisoner, who tortured me. She was not Brooke. She was the haunted spirit of a broken girl. Apex did that to her. She would not have become the monster she was if we had never been kidnapped. Ella is right. Brooke's fate was shaped by those events so many years ago. In some ways, all of our fates were shaped that night. We just chose very different paths. I stay for the funeral, for the burning, and then I leave, flying back with Jax to the life that night sent me to. Jax isn't through with his surprises, though. He takes my hand again, leading me to the sculpture he's been building for weeks. It is a grand ship, made of beautiful wood from a trinity tree with the tricolored blend of dark, light, and medium tones. It's large enough to fit a human, taking the space of the entire cavernous room. Jax walks up to it and pulls a torch from the wall. He holds the torch to the water surrounding his ship. Only it's not water. It's oil. It catches light and sparks into flames that instantly heat my body and warm the cavern. What are you doing? Don't destroy your beautiful work! There's a sick pleasure in watching something beautiful burn. That's the illness in human nature, that we revel in destruction. Jax comes to stand by me as his ship sinks into a sea of flames. All things pass on, and something new is made in their place. Tonight is about letting go. Tomorrow, we will let in the new. And so we sit there, side by side, all night long, watching the ship burn. As the last embers die down into the ash, my head tips to the side, and I sleep. I wake with a pain in my neck and the early morning sun warming my cheek. The ceiling has been opened up to the sky outside, and where the ship burned, a small vine of a sapling tree grows, Eden engineered for accelerated growth. It pushes through the ceiling and stretches into the sky, spreading new branches and leaves as it unravels itself into being. It is a weeping willow, like the one I planted with my father. I suck in my breath. You did this? He puts an arm around my shoulders and grins. And then we walk away, away from the old, and into the new. Epilogue. The Chancellor sits in front of his fire, stroking the white Persian he's come to consider family after all these years.
Orpheus, I do wonder how much more of this I'm equipped for on some days.
When he hears the knock on the door to his office, he sighs, sets the great beast of a cat down, and shuffles to answer what's inevitably going to be unpleasant news. Any visitor arriving after midnight always comes bearing grave tidings, he's learned over the years. A young hospitaller, he thinks her name is Meg, stands before him, her freckles still fresh and eyes still bright. Chancellor, I apologize for disturbing you, but I couldn't find my Grandmaster, and I thought you'd want to see these results immediately.
Come in, child,
he says, gesturing her out of the hall. He closes the door behind her and guides them both back to his chairs. Bad news is best heard in comfort. Another truth he's learned over the years. They sit, her perched on the edge of her seat with spine straight as a board. She holds an envelope that she hands to him the moment he settles. It's about Miss Knight. Her test results came back and...
Yes?
He opens the envelope to see for himself. Based on her blood work, I know this is a delicate subject, being your granddaughter and all, but as you know, we study many races of blood, and—"
Her babbling grates on his tired nerves, so he prods her along. "Child, I am an old man and in need of rest. Please arrive at the point succinctly."
"Well, she's different, sir. And, based on my research, I think she might be—" She gulps and tugs at her braid. "She might be Nephilim." She whispers the word as if it's the vilest curse. He scans the results with old eyes and folds the paper back up.
"Does anyone else know of these results?"
She shakes her head. "No, no one."
"And did you follow protocol when discovering anything relating to Nephilim?"
She flinches at the word, but nods. "All files have been wiped clean, and only this paper file exists. All safety protocols have been followed to the letter." She smiles like he might reward her a gold star for her work. In any other situation, he might. But tonight, well, tonight the stars are aligned against them both, it seems. He stands.
"Thank you, child. I'll handle it from here."
Her shoulders drop down and her face relaxes. "Thank you, sir. I was worried you would be angry."
"Not at all. Just tired, as I said. It's been a long night, and bound to get longer."
She bobs her head and walks in front of him. "Of course. Good night, Chancellor." Before she can open the door, before she can utter another word, the Chancellor jabs a knife into her back, expertly positioning it between her ribs to penetrate her heart and kill her instantly. As she slumps, he catches her body and lays her on the expensive carpets now marred by bloodstains.
"I'm sorry, child. I truly am. But no one must ever know that my granddaughter is Nightfall. The world needs her more than it needs another doctor."
Andri Zorin sits in the cathedral, now a slightly cleaner version of itself, and plays chess against himself, an activity that has occupied him for several hours. He always wins. Of course, he also always loses.
"May I join you, old friend?"
He looks up and into the face as familiar as his own. A big man, cloaked in black, crosses the room and sits across from him. Heavy silver shackles bind his wrists. Zorin smiles at the man.
"Have you come to challenge me once more?" "No,"
says the man, moving a pawn forward.
"I've accepted your decision." "How did you find me?"
Zorin asks, countering his move.
"The news. Umbra is very distinct. And I figured, if you were in the area, you'd be here."
Zorin's hand falls to his sword. He can hide his face, but his blade will always be his tell.
"I've watched you these past days,"
the man says, moving a bishop.
"You've taken on another apprentice."
Zorin captures a pawn and then studies the man before him.
"I had to turn her. I owed her parents."
The man smiles, his dark eyes creasing.
"Or did she remind you of someone? Perhaps someone from long ago?" "I don't know," says Zorin. "Like you said, it was long ago."
The man moves his queen, posing a threat to Zorin's king.
"You know the path you have set her on," the man says. "What she will become." "She'd be dead if I'd done nothing."
The man frowns.
"Perhaps that would have been better."
"Perhaps." Zorin moves his knight.
"Checkmate."
He stands and walks away, but the man calls to him.
"You were always good at strategy, Zorin. Or shall I call you Nyx now?"
Zorin stops and turns, towering over the man he's known too long.
Do not tell the girl.
I will not. At least, not for now.
Zorin dashes forward and grabs the man by the throat, lifting him off his chair and into the air.
I care for you, friend, but do not mistake my kindness for weakness.
Zorin drops the man to the cold floor. The man clutches at his throat, choking, before he can speak again.
I will not tell her.
Zorin stands over him with a challenge in his eyes.
Then you will follow me again?
The man moves to his knees and kneels.
I have followed you for many years. I shall not stop now.
A smile tugs at Zorin's lips as the wind howls around the cathedral.
Then we have work to do. The Nephilim have returned.
This concludes Court of Nightfall by Karpov Kinrade, narrated by Emily Wu Zeller. Copyright 2014 by Karpov Kinrade. This unabridged audiobook is published by arrangement with Daring Books, LLC, and was produced in the year 2016 by Tantor Media Incorporated, a division of Recorded Books, which holds the copyright thereto. Please visit tantor.com for more information on our growing library of